Have you ever met a person who seems perfectly calm no matter what chaos is happening around them? That's the Sigma male. You know him because of his deep stillness. He is the true master of quiet power, the one man who manages every problem, easily ignores criticism, and seems completely untouchable in any social situation. He lives by a perfect set of unwritten rules, and above all, he is absolutely predictable in his calm behavior. But here is the truth that very few people understand. Inside that deep silence, there is a hidden, invisible line. This line is the final boundary that protects his mission, his personal integrity, and his sacred inner peace. If you push him right up to this line, all you get is silence. But if you make the critical mistake of pushing him past it, if you cross that invisible boundary, you instantly unleash a consequence so terrifying, so absolute, that it redefines the very meaning of the word break. The world expects a man who breaks to show rage, shouting, or an emotional collapse. People expect drama. But the Sigma male does not break in a moment of emotional anger. He breaks with surgical, final clarity. His breaking point is not a loud emotional outburst, it is a cold, calculated consequence for the ultimate violation of his self-sovereignty, his right to control his own inner world. Today, for the Solitude Scroll, we are going to dive deep into the terrifying psychology of the man pushed too far. We will show you the exact warning signs he gives before he reaches his limit, the 3 catastrophic consequences that follow the breaking point, and the devastating lesson he leaves behind for those who foolishly mistake his deep patience for weakness. You need to know this, not just to avoid pushing a Sigma, but to understand the power of your own silence. Phase 1. The 3 tiers of warning, the calculated retreat. The most terrifying thing about pushing a Sigma male is that he never warns you with simple aggression or yelling. He warns you with retreat. His path to the breaking point is a precise, 3-tiered descent that the average person always gets wrong, confusing his silence for either indifference or fear. Tier 1, the silent pause, the boundary check. This is the first, almost invisible sign you've made a mistake. When you first violate his initial boundary, maybe you interrupt his deep work, disrespect his scheduled time, or try to pull him into pointless low-value drama, he does not yell or fight back. He gives you a simple, chilling silent pause. He is not being rude, he is conducting a boundary check. He is stopping to observe you and waiting to see if you will immediately self-correct and apologize. He is putting your actions through his data filter, asking, "Was this an honest accident, or is this the start of a disrespectful pattern?" If you quickly realize your mistake and apologize, he usually moves on. If you persist or defend the violation, you move immediately to Tier 2. This pause is the moment he decides whether you are an ally or a liability. Tier 2, the cold silence, the emotional exit. If you ignore the first pause, you move to Tier 2. At this stage, he is still physically present, you might see him at work or in the room. But he has already emotionally vanished. His presence is now purely operational, like a machine. He answers questions with minimal, necessary words, refuses to engage in any conversation beyond what is required, and is actively conserving all his emotional energy for himself. He has initiated the energetic self-severing. This is a terrifying phase for the person who pushed him because they know, deep down, they have completely lost access to his warmth, his vulnerability, and his genuine presence. They are left interacting with a shell of pure, cold logic. The warmth is gone forever. This stage is the last chance to retreat and apologize, because once he moves to Tier 3, the decision is final. He is already practicing life without you. Tier 3, the surgical warning, the final signal. Before the final, absolute break, the Sigma male gives one last, non-emotional warning. This is a factual, measured statement of consequence. It sounds like this: if this pattern continues, I will no longer be available for interaction. Or, this is the last time I will tolerate this level of disrespect to my time. There is no sign of anger in this signal. It is a surgical warning rooted in his inner scorecard. He has logically processed the long-term cost of keeping you in his life, and he is now delivering the inevitable judgment. Once this final line is crossed, the consequences are absolute and unforgiving. Phase 2, the 3 catastrophic consequences. When the Sigma male finally reaches his true breaking point, the break is not a sudden fit of rage, it is the unforgiving execution of a strategy that has been running in the background for weeks. This final, clear decision leads to 3 catastrophic consequences for the person who pushed him beyond his limits. Consequence 1, the total severing, zero regret ghosting. The alpha might yell and eventually return when he calms down. The beta might cry and seek reconciliation. The Sigma engages the total severing. He disappears without trace, without closure, and without any explanation of why. The terrifying part for the perpetrator is the permanence. He has completely deleted the person from his world, not in a fit of passing anger, but as a long-term calculated decision to remove a dangerous liability. His boundaries immediately become an unbreakable wall. The person who pushed him is left with a deep psychological trauma of knowing they were erased completely and permanently simply because they failed to respect his peace. There is no guilt, no looking back, and zero regret on his part. The energy he used to dedicate to that relationship is immediately redirected to his purpose, making him even stronger and more focused. He views the emotional fallout as necessary collateral damage to protect his mission. The loss is entirely the other person's. Consequence 2, the calculated retaliation, the strategic burn. The Sigma male does not seek revenge, he seeks justice and the enforcement of consequence. His retaliation is never emotional, messy, or immediate. It is a calculated retaliation rooted in his strategic intelligence. He uses the vast amount of data he gathered during his long period of observation, Tier 2, to strike where the person is most vulnerable, most reliant on him, or most exposed professionally. This might involve quietly exposing a professional lie, withdrawing essential intellectual support that they depended on, or publicly proving a fundamental flaw in a plan the person relied on him to manage. This is the ultimate application of the quiet execution principle. He acts not to feel better emotionally, but to enforce the absolute law of consequence. The destruction is precise, surgical, and aimed solely at the source of the initial disrespect. He ensures that the cost of violating his peace is a price the other person will never forget. Consequence 3, the identity collapse, rejection of self. This is the most terrifying consequence, and it is reserved for himself. If the Sigma male sacrifices his inner peace for too long and allows himself to be pushed past his point of no return, he risks a profound identity collapse. He may retreat into a deep, agonizing isolation, questioning his entire adherence to his code of self-sovereignty. He views his past patience not as a virtue, but as a weakness that allowed a violation. He will then engage in an unforgiving emotional alchemy ritual of self-correction, purging every soft boundary and every residual vulnerability he possesses. When he emerges from this self-imposed isolation, he is absolutely harder, colder, and his boundaries are now truly immovable. The emotional risk of engagement becomes too high. The terrifying result is a Sigma male who has successfully made himself emotionally invulnerable, but fundamentally disconnected from the possibility of genuine vulnerability or warmth with anyone new. He closes the door on chaos, but he also closes the door on the possibility of a truly deep, warm connection. Phase 3, the aftermath, the unforgiving reset. The breaking point leaves an unforgiving landscape behind it. It forces an unforgiving reset in the Sigma male's life, and it leaves a permanent, unforgettable mark on those who caused it. The reset, rejection of vulnerability. After the break, the Sigma male's primary motivation becomes the absolute and unwavering defense of his sovereignty. He views vulnerability, that soft spot that allowed the violation, as a structural weakness and rejects almost every form of it. His inner scorecard becomes brutal in its perfectionism. Any perceived softness or weakness is immediately marked for intense self-correction and purging. This often results in accelerated professional growth and success, but it comes at the high cost of emotional connection. He rebuilds himself faster and stronger, but with fewer access points. The new rule, immovable boundaries. He installs the immovable boundary as the central law of his life. The space for ambiguity or compromise is gone forever. He will no longer give 3 warnings. The consequence becomes automatic and immediate. He has learned that mistaking his patience for weakness is a universal flaw in others, and he will never allow his calmness to be misinterpreted again. The boundary becomes the law. The terrifying lesson. The final, terrifying lesson is left for the perpetrator to carry. They learn that the Sigma male is the one person in their life they could not control and whose absence cannot be filled by others. They realize they destroyed a rare, genuine, high-value connection for the sake of petty ego or drama. The Sigma male teaches them that quiet strength is the most dangerous force on earth, and underestimating the man who needs nothing from you is the costliest mistake they will ever make. They learn to respect his calm only after facing the devastating cost of his consequence. The Sigma male is defined by his choice of peace. But if you push him, his reaction is not chaotic. It is a calculated, final consequence. His breaking point is not a weakness, it is the ultimate expression of his self-sovereignty. He refuses to live in chaos, and he refuses to let others dictate his worth. Respect his calm, or face his cost. The choice belongs to the person who holds the power to violate his peace. If you recognize the path of the quiet warrior, and you are committed to upholding your immovable boundaries, then it is time to make a commitment. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Solitude Scroll, and drop a comment below and tell me, which tier of warning, silent pause, cold silence, or surgical warning are you currently using?